Rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Owen? Present. Ladies? Childers? Present. Lee? Heller? Here. Sullivan? Here. McGrath? Here. Okay, first item of business is Maine's 207 Award for Academic Achievement. Audrey, I believe you're up first today.
Right. I would like to introduce to you Rachel Anderson. Rachel, stand up. Rachel is a perfect student, and I'm not exaggerating. It's not hyperbole. She's perfect. She has gotten straight A's in every single class she's ever had at Maine West. She's got a perfect
We're just starting.
4.933 GPA. Can't get any higher than that. Just an incredibly smart and involved student. And she doesn't just excel in one area, obviously. She excels, she's a superstar in everything that she does. From academics in the classroom to the badminton court, where she qualified for state as a junior last year, and on the varsity tennis team all 4 years of high school. Her U.S. history, AP U.S. history teacher, Mr. McClure, said this about Rachel. She exceptionally well represents our school with her meticulous dedication to her studies. Most notably, Rachel has an affinity in writing that reflects a deep grasp of content, but also of structure, so that the reader is really drawn in. She is also an incisive class participant in seminars. All the while, she stays insanely busy with girls' tennis and badminton. She is impressive as a person and as a scholar. And Mr. Teeman certainly had to comment that she's an awesome student, highly motivated, inquisitive, and intelligent student in class. And a perfect example is her Rube Goldberg project from last year. She and her group went on to win second place at the University of Illinois at Champaign. And he says, I expect great things from Rachel in the future. We all expect great things from Rachel in the future. This perfect young lady is just a superstar. And as perfect as she is, that's how nice she is as well. She's just a fabulous young lady. We are very, very proud to have Rachel as one of Maine West 207's best. One of the best. One of the best. Rachel, tell us who's here with you and then what your plans are for next year.
I'm here tonight with my parents, David and Michelle. And next year I'd like to study engineering at U of I, Georgia Tech, or Princeton.
Okay, we have a couple of gifts for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on that.
Mom, did you want a picture?
Yes, please.
Can you
Oh, okay,
Sorry.
okay.
I saw your camera.
Here we go. Let's do this. Here we go. Here we go. Congratulations.
All right, next up is Mike from...
My student is not here.
Your student is not here. Then we will, Sean, for Maine South, please.
I would like to introduce Madeline Schulze as our 207's best at Maine South. I could go through a litany of all the classes that Madeline's taken, but to get to this point and being recognized for academic achievement, she's taken all of the top classes. So fill in, AP, and she's taken it, along with multivariable calculus and other subjects like that. The thing that I always liked about her schedule, though, is she always makes room to sing, which is fantastic. I think that shows what a well-rounded student that she is. She gives back to the school, and she gives back to her community. She's involved with the Constitution team, National Honor Society, speech team, Hawk Links, Athletic Council. She's on my Principals Advisory Council as well. Triad Music Honor Society, Thespians, Hawk Pride leader, PE leader, the list goes on. But what's also cool about Madeline is that she's been to Costa Rica and Mexico on mission trips. She's been to New Orleans to help victims of Katrina. She was down in Joplin, Missouri after Hurricane Isaac. So she not only feels that sense of of community and obligation to Maine South, but to a greater community that I'd like to say is not only the United States, but the world. I mean, she's just out there. There's a comment, I'll list some things that people say about Madeline, but then there's one little story that I think really sums it up. Conscientious, sociable, persistent, courteous, astute, positive attitude, always smiling, genuine, determined, deeply intelligent, down to earth. All just incredibly important traits. But I'll share a story from Mr. Hurley. Madeline is a wonderful kid with a tremendous attitude who really wants to learn to understand and not just memorize. She spent many mornings in my room last year while taking Calculus BC, making sure she was successful. Madeline has a great sense of humor and works extremely well with her peers. She's also incredibly thoughtful. I made an off-the-cuff remark about never seeing the movie Elf, and for Christmas last year, she and two of her friends got it for me as a gift. Also last year, when my daughter was born, she would always ask me how she was doing, remembering her name as well as other details I shared about her. I always felt that when speaking with Maddie, that she really was listening, and all the little personal touches and respect she showed really resonated with me. She's a fantastic young woman with a bright future, and I'm thrilled she's being recognized as one of 207's best. So I think that's a great little story that sums up really who Madeline is and how fun it's been. This is, I'm having a unique moment in my career here in that Madeline's part of my first full graduating class. So this year, the kids I started with will walk across the stage and graduate. And Madeline and some of her peers have been such a big part of the positive experience that being in Maine South has been. So thank you. Tell us who is with you tonight and what are some of your plans for next year?
I brought my dad Bernie, my mom Diane, my Oma, and my Opa, and my brother Charlie.
And what are you thinking about doing next year?
I'm planning on going to engineering at Vanderbilt or Notre Dame.
Congratulations.
Come on, I know we have some party gifts for you.
While I don't have a full paperweight for you, I do have a very nice certificate. Congratulations. Thank you.
I know really awesome paper. Google it and see what it's for. Oh, wait a minute. We need a paper. Turn around. We need a picture too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I would ask David Gurko to stand, please. David is our selected student for 207's Best from Maine East. David has a GPA of 4.88 right now, and basically has taken, as I reviewed his transcript, everything that can possibly be taken, accelerated AP he has. Starting off with AP Euro last year, he had 4 APs, 3 of which he earned 5s in. And I think he's got 5 APs this year that he's working on right now. So clearly very, very capable in terms of academic achievement in what he's proven to us and what he's demonstrated. David grew up and spent the first 10 years of his life in Romania. And during that period of time, as folks were working, his grandparents were ailing in health, so he was living with them and was helping care for them, as I understand it. Kind of decided at that point, watching some deterioration and kind of dealing with that aspect of life, kind of wanted to make the world a better place and make a mark. His dad came over to the States, and after 3 years of schooling in Romania, when he was 10 years old, he and his mom got on a plane and came over to meet his dad. And from what I understand from his counselor, Susie Caliendo, he's always sort of taken this as an adventure to be lived as he's come on through, in terms of seeing what advantages America has to offer him and how he can best sort of leverage those things. So came in at 10 years old and took advantage of the school he was attending at that point. As an 8th grader, he was a salutatorian. Was not he's an English language learner. He's not a native English speaker. So when he came to Maine East, he had been in an ELL program, and we went through and he was placed in ESL. And after the testing, it became obvious very quickly that that might not be an appropriate placement. And as a matter of fact, he did not need any ELL support at all. And actually, at this point, I'm going to just read from the letter because it'll be more succinct and probably more eloquent than me speaking from the cuff. Upon arriving at Maine East as a freshman student, David was once again in an entirely new situation. At that time, he was completely unfamiliar with our school, our curriculum, and the rigor expected here in relationship to academic work. Because David had recently arrived in the United States, he was initially screened for placement into our English Language Learner program. As the test scores were reviewed, it became clear that David not only did not require extra language and academic support, but that he belonged in our most rigorous classes. This was further reinforced as he placed into our highest level Algebra 2 accelerated course after independently teaching himself algebra in the summer before high school began. With far less formal educational experience in the United States than most of his peers, David quickly surfaced as one of our top students. Susie gave us a quote that I used in the letter. It said that in every endeavor, David Gurko exceeds expectations. He has a brilliant mind, a phenomenal work ethic, and the desire to have a positive impact on the world around him. He's improved the lives of many through his volunteer efforts, both locally with Angeles Lighthouse and regionally with repairing homes damaged by recent natural disasters as part of the Gifted Lyceum program. He's earned multiple awards for his debate work, due in large part to the extra work that he put in at debate camps and clinics. He's explored future careers in engineering through a program offered in conjunction with our local community college. Will have taken 6 advanced math courses and 4 advanced science courses to lay the strong foundation required for success in a university engineering program. His sense of independence, maturity, and motivation are hallmarks of his personality and foundational aspects of his character and his work ethic. I'm very pleased to be able to present him to all of you and introduce him as 207's best. And he's pretty amazing. We're looking for great things the remainder of the year, and certainly he will do us all proud in 207 as he goes on and does whatever it is he's going to do with life. So congratulations, David. And who's here with you tonight?
I brought my mother. My dad was still working, so.
Very good. And what are your plans next year?
Okay, well, as far as universities go, I'm obviously quite not sure yet, but I want to go into a rigorous statistics program, computer science. Those are I'm not really into engineering per se, but I like that kind of math, the software, working with software and working with statistics. And that's all influenced by the courses I've taken at Maine East.
Very good. Congratulations.
Come to you, Mom. How's that? It's okay. Picture too?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get over here. Not working?
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Before we have everyone step up, we have one more student presentation today, so take just a second, go into communications, and we have a presentation to Maine West student
Amru Kuta.
Amru
For short.
Kuta.
Okay.
And take this, please.
So this is by far our favorite part of any board meeting. We're so honored and blessed in this district to get to work with the kind of students that we get to see here for the 207's Best. We see so many incredible stories of so many kids coming from so many places doing amazing, amazing things. And it's very rare, since 1902, we've had a lot of firsts in 207 history, but we've got one tonight, and it's a really important one. So I want to share a story here about Maine West Junior Amru Kuta, Junior, right? Yeah. Okay, so Junior. So Amru was recently our very first Google
Apps for Education Certified Trainer. Now, District 207 has more teacher trainers than any organization in the world, but Amaru is our first student trainer, and not only is he the first in District 207, he's literally one of the very first in the world. So I thought that's a pretty impressive thing, and Amaru just is doing great things. He's one of our Tech Genius students at West. I'm going to introduce Neil Charlotte, who is our tech manager at West. We do great things for our students because we've got great adults. Neil is an example of probably one of the best tech managers that any high school in America has, and we have him right here at Maine West High School. So Neil, if you want to say a few words about Amaru.
Sure. Let me tell you a story. So Amaru came on board last year as one of the Tech Geniuses. So our Tech Genius team is our support team for his peers and for teachers to kind of go to for any tech support that they need in the classroom. So Amaru was on board last school year, and one of the first things I picked up from him is that he's very inquisitive, asking a lot of questions. Hey, Mr. Charlotte, I'm trying to do this home networking thing at home, and what do you think about this port and that wireless? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't even know what the heck he was talking about. Just nodding my head, yeah, well, that's probably a good idea. You should test it. But that's what I know. That's when I knew that the guy was brilliant, and that kind of continued through last school year. And then this past summer, he was kind of on board as one of our student workers to help us prepare and deploy all the 1,000+ Chromebooks that we had for book sales. So he was on that team. Now, he is a member in our Chrome Depot Service Center, and where he's kind of the face of the place and one of the go-to guys that people go to if they need any assistance. So he's definitely an asset to our team, and he's done a lot of great work for our school and for our students. And I know teachers go to this guy because they know that you can break it down to them in a friendly manner, and that he relays the information to the teachers in a way that they can really understand and get technology. So I'm excited that he's being acknowledged for this. Not to mention, so part of the Google Certified program, you got to pass 6 exams, and they're pretty rigorous. And so within a month's time, Q had gone through the certification program, and then he took all 6 exams. And now the last phase of the process is submitting an application to become an official Google Certified Trainer, of which in the world, there are about 600 trainers. That's adults, as Dr. Ball said, and as far as a high school student, we probably got the golden child here as far as I'm very proud of him.
All right. Good, thank you. This is picture night. Okay, students, Mr. Berry has pictures that we'd like to get for all the students out there, but unless you just want to stay for a board meeting, you are free to go. Parents, you're free to go too. But thank you all so much, and this really is the highlight of any of our board meetings ever, by far.
Really? Oh. Wait, who's here?
Next item on the agenda, public comments. Are there any cards?
I have not received any. Let me take a look and see if there are any. No.
Okay, thank you. Is there any updates from the superintendent?
Let's see. We have a, and I guess Mr. Lace is running a little bit late tonight, but Mr. Lace, longtime board member, received his Master School Board member certification this year, and that'll be awarded at the North Cook Dinner. And that's the only update that I have this evening.
Okay, board members? Updates? Okay, now we will move on to Finance Committee update. Mr. Coleman?
Well, the Finance Committee met, we had the auditors there, we discussed the audit itself, operations of the district's budget. And then at the end there, we voted on a series of dates for upcoming meetings, so we have them all pre-established. And that was inconvenient for one of our members, so we reset those dates. So we'll be meeting at least once a month on Thursdays at 5 o'clock. And then those dates will be published.
Okay, and the audit report is on the agenda for later this evening.
And those are recommendations that are being approved by the board.
Okay, thank you very much. Policy.
The policy committee has had a couple of meetings and is bringing forward 2 policies tonight. I just want to summarize again. These policies are actually replacing one prior policy, number 3242, which dealt with unethical influence and behavior. We were reviewing that policy partly in response to recommendations that came out of the hazing investigation conducted by Mr. Acosta, which made some suggestions about revisions. The result of our review was to recommend that we create 2 separate policies to replace that one. The first deals with professionalism and ethical behavior. That was presented, I think, at the September meeting for a first reading. The other is policy 3244, which addresses conflicts of interest. It's set for discussion later on the agenda. But I've asked that we waive the first reading of that policy because it's a little bit time sensitive, because it addresses situations that impact our sports programs, which are in full swing right now. Waiving the first reading of this policy would also allow both policies to be voted on at one time, which was our original plan for them.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is monthly status of finances. Mary?
In your board packet is the August financial report. August represents 16.67% of the year complete. On the revenue side, you can see some of our funds have over 40% of the revenue received. That's because property tax bills were once again due in August, so we've gotten a big chunk of change in property taxes. On the expenditure side, you can see only the funds where we do summer projects, health and safety and OPEB have greater than 16% of their budget expended. I will entertain any questions that you have on the August financial report.
Any questions from board members? All right, thank you, Mary. Next up, instructional services. Bart is not here tonight. Who is going to, Hank is going to be presenting on this. Thank you, Hank.
Sure, and Don will help me as well if there's any questions. Included tonight are 4 different reports regarding instructional services: the demographics report, the ACT report, national merit scholarships, and the AP advanced placement test report and class report. I know they were provided to you in advance. There's just a major point of interest that we'd like to point out, and we'll entertain any questions from the board. The one that really sticks out is in the ACT report, a major change that occurred this year in the fact that ACT is now including in its reports the performance of students that completed the assessment with extended time accommodations. This particularly applies to special education students. This is a major change when you start looking at data over the course of time, because this is a large change in the pool of students that were included in the data in analysis. So what you'll notice is in some of the later graphs in the report, we've represented, or well, Don has represented that data with a solid line that represents the actual assessments that and trend line that we're required to report, and there's a dotted line that pulls that out so you can see kind of how it would have gone if that change hadn't happened. So if there's any other questions, Don and I are happy to answer those.
You're essentially just trying to compare apples to apples by doing that.
Correct, because there's a long history there. I think the last time we did something like this was when we made the change that all students were going to take the ACT as part of the PSAT.
And just as a question, Don, we have that solid line and that dotted line information at the district and the state level, but that is not available at the national level?
I did not see it reported at the national level. The reports they provide to us, they provide for each building and then for the state. I have not seen it at the national level.
And when you look at the change between, the difference between the two groups at, say, the district and the state level, would you say that our results are in line with the state reporting, or are we, is there a greater divergence, or is it, I mean, it looks very, obviously the diverging.
Yeah.
But statistically, are we about doing better than the state level, or?
Yeah, I would say we're, very similar to the state in terms of that difference, because, all juniors in the state are mandated to take the assessment, so, whereas in other states, those students with special needs who might need the incentive time accommodation, might not even go and take the ACT. So, but because every other district, every other school is required to test their special ed juniors as well, I think our population in proportion is pretty similar.
Okay, so like the testing was what we would expect for adding in that population in our schools, that, and we would expect them to do, with that, our scores are still above state and national average.
Yeah.
Just looking at the composite scores is one place to start.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions about?
I have one comment on that particular graph that I think is important. On the graph that Margaret's pointing out, even if you isolate the average with students included, that average is well above the state or national average, even with that decline, which I think is pretty impressive, given that I think our population of special education students is a little bit higher than the state average. So what that means is we have a little bigger distribution of students in that pool. So I think that's pretty remarkable.
Any questions or comments? Thank you very much. Other items, monthly update on FOIA requests, Ken?
We have 7 this month that have either been processed or in the process of being processed.
And then we come to Board of Education policies. Are there any? There's no policies under the first reading. Everything is under the second reading. Thank you. Next item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Sullivan, Keller. Are there any questions or comments about items on the consent agenda? Items A through F. Hearing no questions, Jenny, would you call the roll, please?
Childers? Aye. Owen?
Aye.
Heller? Lee? Sullivan?
Aye.
McGrath?
Aye. Next up, Board of Education policies and procedures, second reading. I think we should take these separately since one of them we are waiving the first reading on. Do I have a motion on Board Policy 3242, unethical influence behavior?
I'll move policy 3242.
Sullivan? Keller? Are there any questions or comments on this policy? This is the second reading. This was that I did last month. I just have a quick question. Greg, the copy that we have in our Board doc.
We have, that was an old version of it. It is not.
In board doc is correct.
The one that is electronically on your board document is the correct version.
That's what, it has highlighting and stuff in it right now.
Right.
It shows all the markers, but that is the most correct version. Thank you.
It's exactly the same as what was provided to the board last month for the first reading.
And I did look it over today.
Are there any other questions or comments on Board Policy 3242? Hearing none? Jenny, will you call the roll?
Owen?
Aye.
Heller?
Aye.
Lee? Childers?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
McGrath?
Aye. Board Policy 3244, this is policy conflict of interest. Is there a motion on this policy?
So moved.
Sullivan?
Second.
Childers? And questions or comments?
I'd like to make some comments on this. The policy committee has met several times to talk about the conflict of interest policy, which, as I said before, is new, but it takes parts of the original policy and adds a number of things. The conflict of interest policy generally prohibits any worker, and that includes employees and coaches and things like that, in the district from benefiting, mostly financially, from their relationship with students in outside district work. This policy proposes exemptions to this general rule, however. One of them is for tutoring, for example. The policy allows a teacher to tutor for pay with some restrictions. This isn't new. Somewhere in our policy that's always been allowed. Another exemption that we are proposing has to do with outside athletic coaching or lessons. This would allow students to participate in lessons outside of school or on non-school teams run by a district coach within some limits. The way our policy currently reads, it can be interpreted to restrict our coaches who run outside lessons or coaching from having students attend those sessions or play on those teams. The IHSA also has rules about this which limit the timing and the number of students who can participate on a school coach's outside team or lesson. But our current policy, as written, is more restrictive than the IHSA rules require. Our current policy is problematic for a number of reasons. First, as we know from hearing from some parents of Maine South students, some of the students wanted to attend some outside lessons and felt our policy was overreaching to prohibit them from doing so. Also, many of the coaching candidates who are able and willing to coach have outside businesses in those areas that they coach in. And if we prevent students from attending those places of business, the coaches may choose to run the business rather than coach. Staff is concerned about that because it's difficult to recruit quality coaches, and our current policy can further impinge on their ability to do that. On the other hand, we are sensitive to claims that students might feel pressure, implied or actual, to play on a coach's outside team or participate in whatever the coach is doing outside, because they think that they have to do so to be viewed favorably when they're trying out for or playing on their high school team for that same coach. The policy that we're recommending attempts to strike a balance between those competing concerns. It allows participation in outside coaching or lessons that a high school coach runs, following the IHSA guidelines as the limit. It also requires, however, that any such participation by a student must be voluntary and cannot be a prerequisite for membership or status on a district athletic team. This last requirement could result in our athletic directors having more of a monitoring role than they may have had in the past. But we feel it's an important concern that should be firmly established in our policy. That's the proposal that we have forward. I don't know, Greg, if you have anything to add to that.
Are there any other comments or questions about policy 3244? If not, please call the roll.
Lee? Owen?
Aye.
Childers?
Aye.
Heller? Sullivan?
Aye.
McGrath?
Aye. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the 2012-2013 audit. Do I have a motion that the Board of Education accept the audit reports for Maine Township High School District 207 and the North Suburban Educational Region for Vocational Education for the year ending June 30th, 2013?
So,
Questions or comments? Mary?
Before you this evening is the big pile of packets that represents the final audit. You have two in the blue, which are the audits for ENSER and for District 207. You have two reports to the Finance Committee and the Board of Control. These are reports on internal controls and required communications for SAS 114. You also have single audits for for both NSERV and District 207. These have all been provided in advance. I did not make you copies, but you have copies of the AFRs for each. I figured I wouldn't kill that many trees because we didn't get enough copies. The auditors, as Sean pointed out, came and did a presentation to the Finance Committee in September in the management discussion and analysis, which is after the auditor's opinion in the audit, is kind of our synopsis of the highlights of the year that is being audited. So it shows any major changes, things that were relevant to the financial status of the district. So I will entertain any questions that anybody has on the audit.
They've changed the standards on how they word things, but basically they have said we received an unqualified opinion, which is the best opinion that we can get.
I would like to thank you for the splendid job. Karen asked with flying colors, which means we won.
And I would just remind the board that when Ms. Kalu began here, we were about a year or more behind implementing some audit standards that should have been implemented. So her first year was spent fixing that issue, and to get to where we are now speaks to just incredible work she's done. Just really good work, and we have been very served as a district. This community has been very served, very well served by having her in the position she's in.
Thank you very much, Mary. And are there any other questions or comments?
I'm glad Sean said what he said, because I was confused when I read the memo about the unqualified opinion.
There could be a lot of things.
It's like when a doctor says you have an unremarkable x-ray, that's a good thing.
Ready for the roll call, please?
Sullivan?
Aye.
Peller?
Aye.
Owen? Aye. Lee?
Aye.
Childers?
Aye.
McGrath?
Aye. Next up on the agenda, calendar items. We have a couple of items up.
Yes. Get to the right spot again. Okay, a couple of things here. Just a reminder, October 14th, Wednesday, the district offices are closed. Big item, I just want to remind board members, October 16th is the North Cook Fall Dinner and Program at the Holiday Inn North Shore at Skokie. Actually, at that meeting, Mr. Legs will be receiving his Master Board Certification Award. And so that's always a night that we like to have a good presence from the board at that dinner. And I think the speaker this year is Dan Rutherford. Is that
Yes.
right? Yeah, so Dan Rutherford will be speaking on Illinois finances. How could you get a better topic than that? So,
He's the state treasurer. So
he is the state treasurer, so he knows what he's talking about. But it is a wonderful event. It's a good evening, and just invite all board members to attend if they're able to do so on that night.
I would like to propose at the next meeting that we pass a resolution recognizing and congratulating board member Blades on his recognition as a master board member.
Mark, is there something in the notes that Ginny would be placing reservations for us as a board?
Yes. Yeah, if you wish, Jenny can do that. We've sent it out. We know in Friday notes maybe a couple times, but in any event, if you need that, just let us know.
I would like to.
Okay. Judy, I'll be in New York City and I'll be able to attend.
You too. Donna too.
Okay.
And I think
I think
Jen and
she's
Eric have
attending, not
already
going to.
RSVP'd.
Jen and Eric have already.
And I will be in exciting Red Lake for a CFO conference.
Okay, are there any other calendar items that we need to?
I just appreciate getting this fine arts calendar from Maine East, and I think there was something else from one of the other schools that really is helpful.
Are there any public comments at this time? Any cards? No? Okay, then we have a motion to go into closed session for
Yes.
Student personnel, review of closed session minutes, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees,
No.
collective negotiating matters, and setting of a price for sale or lease of real property.
So,
Second. Heller?
Childers. Aye. Bowen.
aye.
Sullivan. Lee. Peller. McGrath.
Aye. Report, we are